is the number. It's time to say a very good afternoon to Lois Perry. Very good. Nice to see you, Lois.
Lovely to see you too, Mike. Always a pleasure.
Now, listen, how about this? The cost of rapidly charging an electric car has risen sharply as energy costs have soared, right? The average cost of a litre of petrol has increased by 25% and 30% for diesel. But electric cars are now going up even more because rapid chargers are having to charge you the cost of electricity, which has now gone through the roof.
Yeah.
And nobody ever thought of this, did they?
Well, no, nobody did think about it. And the thing is, if we're completely dependent on one source of energy, i.e. electricity, I mean, how vulnerable does that leave us?
Right.
You know, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And how do we make the electricity anyway? Because it's not with wind turbines.
It certainly is not.
No.
Well, I was talking to an energy specialist earlier on, and he was talking about the fact that fracking should have been done a long time ago, which is kind of the point of your piece this week in the Express.
Yeah.
But not only that, but that we will always have to have oil and gas generated fuel because it will have to fill in the gaps for when the renewable stuff doesn't work, which is most of the time.
Which is most of the time. You need 100% gas backup for wind turbines. It's an absolute joke. And then the electricity that is made from that, then, as I say, can't be stored. You need 50 billion quid a year to actually replace all the batteries that you'd need to have the backup, and it would be a mountain of batteries every single day required to back up renewables for electricity. The whole thing is an absolute joke. And also electric cars, they disenfranchise the poor. Where are they supposed to charge their car? No, they're supposed to be not driving.
Oh no, they're not allowed to drive.
They're not allowed to drive. You can't have working class people driving, can we,
they're allowed to get on the electric buses.
Oh yes. You know. Well, that's very benevolent of the powers that be.
But this is the thing, I mean, every time I walk around London, and I don't want to make this just about London, 'cause it's probably the same in every other city in the country, but there's bus after bus after bus going past me, completely empty. There's nobody on them, right?
Or you see them breaking down because they run out of charge. That's the best one.
Why are they driving around without anybody in them?
No, I know, it's a joke. And the thing is, we've got hyperinflation at the moment. We're borrowing money like it's going out of fashion when we've got trillions of quid's worth of actual shale gas under our feet. I mean, if the government are worried about apparent earthquakes, which is nonsense anyway, they should be really worried about the earthquake and the tremors that are going to happen from the people revolting this winter, because there will be civil unrest. Well, people can't eat.
Right.
Mike.
I mean, one of the reasons why you wrote this piece in the Express this week was because of the new cap, which has been named at £2,800 a year.
Who can afford that?
I'm sorry, I think I'm going to have to rename this energy cap, because it's not a cap at all, is it?
How is that
a cap? That is like over 200 quid a month for people.
That's a huge amount of money, and you think people, you know, they're taxed and everything, so that's what, nearly £3,000 a year. It's a fortune. It's an absolute fortune, and people are on benefits and stuff like that. I mean, they're going to give these people on universal credit benefits a lump sum. That'll probably get spent in the first week from some people.
Well, I mean, I was saying earlier, why would you give 1,000 or 1,500 quid to people in cash? Right?
Yeah.
What do you think they're going to do with it?
Well, you know, life is depressing at
I mean,
the moment.
some at Jubilee Week, you know, might have a big party.
Quite possibly, but people, even if they're responsible, it won't even touch the sides, Mike, will it? It won't even touch the sides. It's, you know...
Well, the 400 quid that everybody's getting, even including people who don't need it, right? Take that off of the £200.
Oh, paying it back as well?
Well, no, that's the old one.
Oh, that's the other one,
If you got that, I didn't get that, so I don't have to pay it back. But luckily, I already gave it to them first, and so if they gave it back to me and they said I could keep it, I'm still flat. You know, it's not as if, you know, they're giving me money that I didn't have. They're giving me money that I've already given them.
Right.
Now they're giving another 400 quid to everybody, right? Regardless of how wealthy they are. And if you've got more than one house, you get more than one payment. So if you've got 3 houses or 5 houses, like Rishi Sunak, you're actually making £2,000.
Don't you think it's time that we get rid of Rishi Sunak? He's not a Tory, is he? What about John Redwood or Lord Frost?
Well, I'd quite like to see Redwood in power. I'd certainly like to see Lord Frost in the cabinet, if nowhere else.
Absolutely right.
But, you know, unfortunately, we've got to put up with Boris Johnson for a bit longer. But I've always said, you know, don't fire him for Partygate, fire him for the Green agenda, and fire him for, you know, not taking care of the migrant crisis, because those are the 2 biggest things that Conservative voters care about.
That is what people care about. And, you know, there was a poll done by Howard Cox from Fairfuel UK, and it showed that 80% of those people that were polled do not want the normal vehicles to be banned by 2030. They want to see a transition to cleaner fuels. I was in a cab here on the way to the studio, and this cab driver said that he's actually switched over to LPG fuel, which is used in Europe quite a lot.
What's that?
It's actually a byproduct from petrol and diesel. It's a byproduct, so it's actually really, really green, if you believe in all that kind of stuff. And he said that they're actually now, all the supermarket petrol stations that were actually supplying it are now going to stop, which is ridiculous.
Why?
Well, I don't know, because it doesn't fit in with the green agenda. There is so much money being made by people by all this nonsense.
Yes.
There really, really
Well,
is.
Richard Tice was saying earlier that a lot of the companies that are involved in renewable energy are making even more money than the oil and gas companies, because the cost of their extraction, if you like, or their production of electricity has not changed.
No, and we're still using loads of oil and gas.
But they're able to charge a lot more money for it because of the market.
Absolutely, and the thing is, doing windfall taxes is immoral anyway, because it's actually theft.
Yeah.
But you know, they haven't got the money to put into research and development to actually, you know, to it would actually put energy costs up doing a windfall tax on the oil and gas
probably
companies.
Will.
It's
Now,
ridiculous.
last time you and I spoke, there was about to be an event where they were going to pour concrete inside of the 2 fracking areas.
Oh yeah, I was going to go dressed as Boudica.
Yes, I remember that. So what happened
Sorry
to that?
about that.
Because they postponed that, right?
Well, Boris Johnson's done something quite clever, actually. He's sort of put it on ice, which means that he feels that people won't be able to talk about it because a decision hasn't been made or has been made. In the actual official line is that they're going to be running tests over the next year to see whether it's possible or not. They know it's possible.
Right.
They did all the R&D and all of the surveys and everything in 2012, 2013 when they were going for gold until the green nightmare started.
Yeah.
So, you know, well, we just have to wait and see. But, I mean, as it stands right this second, they're not being filled in.
Right.
But who knows? We've got a
But
year.
are they then running the tests, or is just nothing happening?
Well, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So we need to, we know, we are in touch with people to find out about all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know, I feel like it's just been kicked into the long grass, because it was everywhere, that story, for a while,
Well,
wasn't
do you
it?
know what's interesting is nobody really talks about COP26 anymore, although we did discover, I think it was like until back end of last week, that there's a bunch of people working in the Cabinet Office who are still attached to COP26. And you go,
good,
well,
I'm glad we're paying them for that. That's
what exactly are
fantastic.
they doing?
COP27 is going to be in Egypt, apparently, and maybe I could get locked in the disabled toilet, do a show with you
In
again.
Cairo, yeah.
In
well,
Cairo, I mean, just mix
absolutely.
it up a bit, Mike.
Valley of the Kings.
Yeah,
I mean,
Valley of the Kings.
It's just beggars belief, doesn't it? But so, I mean, as far as the way that electric cars are rolling out, apparently second-hand electric cars are costing a fortune. People are selling more and more of them,
It's a joke.
which tells me that they're selling them because they don't want to have them.
Well, I mean, if you think you're driving down the road electric car, right, if you charge your phone, that drains the battery. If you have the air conditioning on, that drains the battery.
Yeah.
If you have the heating on, that drains the battery.
Yeah.
If you have music on, that drains the battery. I mean, you know, the whole
It's like driving around a giant iPhone, isn't it?
It is, and you know what happens with iPhones, they run out really quickly. But what about if you're a mum, a single mum or a married mum, whatever, and you're living in a normal flat or whatever, and you haven't got off-street parking, and, you know, and you can't get to a charge point because they're all full, or you've got to get your kids in the car to go to school, you're stuckered.
Right.
You're absolutely stuckered. Electric car is... Normally, the people that have got electric cars are wealthy people who've also got a petrol and diesel vehicle to do long journeys. But actually, hybrids are quite good, apparently. I've been told this by a number of scientists.
Well, hybrids make a lot of sense because...
But they're being banned as well, Mike.
Yeah, they're also on the ban list.
Why?
Because apparently they're not green enough.
Yeah, but electric cars are actually... If you believe in all the CO2 stuff, which you know I don't...
Yeah.
They actually are much worse for the environment in terms of CO2 because of the amount of CO2 that's required to make them. You have to drive about them for 70,000 miles before they're any better.
Absolutely.
And they're heavier, so you get emissions from the tyres. The whole thing's ridiculous.
It really is. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who said she's got a son who has an electric car, but because the availability of charge points is so bad, he has to go out the night before he goes to work, about 11:30 at night, to make sure he can charge his car.
So
Because
no
if he
jumping
goes
in the
out-
car for romantic trips last
Well,
minute?
no, and you can't. And also, I mean, I've had this conversation with people before where you go, he's like, well, it's just like going to a petrol station. Well, I said, well, it's not actually, because if you go to a petrol station,
5 minutes max.
you're there, you fill the car up, you've gone. You've paid for it, whether you do it on the pump or whatever.
Yeah.
There's no shortage of petrol.
No.
Generally speaking, there's no shortage
Not
of
unless
petrol.
those nutters have
pumps.
superglued themselves
Well,
to
good
it.
luck if they ever run into me. But, but if you go to an electric charge point and the one that's there doesn't work, then you've got to go and find another one.
And how long does it take?
Well, a guy that tried to do a trip from London to Glasgow ended up taking 16 hours to drive there because every time he got to a charge point, it was either occupied by someone, he had to wait an hour, or it didn't work.
You'd need to have charge points, like equivalent petrol stations, the same size as an airport car park.
You would.
To actually have people being able to fill up, get on their way in the same way that they can at the
Because
moment.
a lot of the charge points, you have to sit at them for 45 minutes. So it's not like getting, you know, so that breaks up the journey.
You can't even listen to the radio, can you?
Well,
or charge your phone.
Well, maybe you can while it's charging, but if you're sitting there...
But then that'll drain the charge that's coming into the car.
Maybe.
No, I don't know.
I just don't know. The whole thing is a mess. So what's next on the agenda for you guys, CAR26?
We are continuing with our campaigning. We want fracking brought back in. We want the cost of energy brought down.
Yep.
We're looking at nuclear, and we just want people to realise what this green agenda really does genuinely mean for them. So it's about pushing the message out so people take it seriously, because people are sort of sleepwalking into it. They think, oh, we're saving the planet. But I mean, these heat pumps, for example, they don't heat up properly at all. They're going to cost an absolute fortune. Yeah. The radiators that we've got in the houses don't support that. You know, the people are going to be really, really cold, and you know, people aren't going to be able to drive their cars. It's an absolute nightmare, and people can't afford to heat their homes. They can't afford to eat. So what we're doing at the moment is just making sure that ordinary people know that this net zero ideological agenda is funny, actually, because Rishi Sunak said, oh, this is about pragmatism, not ideology. What nonsense that is. He's pushing the net zero agenda.
He really is. Absolutely ridiculous.
So,
good to see you. We'll keep up the good fight. We need to stop these madmen from taking over the planet.
Don't worry, I'm going to stop them.
To save it. Well done. Lois Perry, thank you very much indeed. We'll take your calls coming next on Talk TV.